Welcome to a different perspective where civil commentary is priority. Today is the 31st of December 2022, and today's topics for discussion are of reflections and recruitment. My big focus in the past was to make good arguments to sway moderates and centrists, but as the old saying goes, the more the merrier. I think that it's time to make some good arguments to welcome libertarians. But before we jump into recruitment, in traditional form, wrapping up the new year, I'm reflecting on the small goals that I've made and asking myself if progress was achieved. Goal number one was to encourage civil and critical dialogue via political and sociological topics. I think I did okay. I mean, I don't pull a full blast effort because I do what I do when I can. Goal number two is to make good arguments that are solution-based. I'm pretty consistent, but you know what? I'm going to continue to be more consistent with that goal. Goal number three is to organize a panel, which I did, and I'm learning. And I think it went really well, and I found people that are willing to be in panels in the future. So more people, that'll be awesome. Goal number four is to focus on interviews that have guests that don't align with me 100% 24/7. I don't like preaching to the choir. Goal number five, from 0 views to 1,145 views, which is still minuscule, but it's significantly more than 0. So yay me. So now let's reflect on some of the obstacles that I've encountered. Obstacle number one is gaining people's confidence to come on the podcast. One of two things would occur. Would-be guests being too nervous was the most obvious, and a large number of individuals show interest, but they bail due to not feeling comfortable being publicized on ADPCC's YouTube channel. Or people would downplay the size of my podcast and say it wasn't worth their time. I guess that's fair. They're just like, you have so many views. Oh, please. So whatever, dude. All right, and obstacle number two is being motivated to prioritize my time to make more content. I enjoy the process of making quality online content, but it's time consuming and it doesn't pay the bills. So when I have extra motivation and I have extra time, I'll be, more willing to make more ADPCC projects. It's just, I have a family, I have a full-time job. You just can't just do it all the time as much as I would like. And obstacle number three, I'm still learning how to stream, edit, and broadcast. I've made so many rookie mistakes, but that's the charm of my podcast. It's authentic and it's subject to human error. I also have some unexpected surprises. Number one, YouTube unlocked my community tab. I don't know if that's something they did for everyone, but that's just something that's always been locked. And now I'm saying, hey, I can do some stuff. So it'll be fun to get creative with that. Number two, another unexpected surprise is I like to refer to my Twitter followers as my partners. And many of you guys are very outspoken. To be honest, I love that. And that's probably the one thing that I'm most proud of. Listen, ADPCC isn't meant to preach to the choir. I actively try to find political disagreements. All the conversations that I've had are with real people. And so you guys have done a pretty good job of modeling critical dialogue. So thank you to all my guests / partners for becoming part of a solution-based conversation. And I look forward to arguing with you soon or finding someone else to argue against your points on a panel. So speaking of that, now let's go ahead and jump to our recruiting efforts. My recruiting efforts. There's no we, it's just me, unfortunately, when I have to do all these things. So yeah, and it's also you when you decide to come on to the interview. So it's a two-way street. I've never gave much thought of recruiting from the libertarian demographic due to senior rhetoric. To be fair, I know that they have good advocates like Ron Paul, Gary Johnson, and Rand Paul. But it really depends on who you ask. Let's check out some libertarian political clips. Transparency. I didn't cherry pick these clips. A simple search on YouTube, and this is what I got. So let's go ahead and check that out really quick. All right, let's go ahead and go to my spectator mode. It just... I understand that the libertarians aren't going to be just represented solely on these clips. I know that. Just want to throw that out there. But from a person that has never really entertained, other than just the name sounding very marketable, freedom, I didn't know much about the libertarian ideology in my country, the United States, so I wanted to learn. So I'm going to show you the first video that I ever watched, a video clip of that debate, and also something I just found on YouTube, and then it was followed up by another way how libertarians market their ideas.
Turns into a strip show. The viral video has been shared millions of times. 7 Action News reporter Simon Shaquette introduces us to the man in the video who is defending his actions.
The video you're about to see gives new meaning to the term political action. It may not get your vote, but it will get your attention. It was the live broadcast no one expected to see on C-SPAN. Now a viral sensation, a man stripping down in the middle of the National Libertarian Party convention last Sunday in Orlando.
The political system is so corrupt that it needs to be stripped down to nothing.
That's why you took your clothes off?
That's why I took my clothes off.
James Weeks II of Howell wants to make sure you stand up for your rights. That's why he says he's taken down his clothes on national TV.
There was a lot of people who got it instantly, and I was really happy to see that. Without me having to really even say much, there was people that were messaging me. By the time I got back to my hotel room, my inbox on Facebook was blown up.
The outspoken candidate for Livingston County Sheriff has also run for Congress, and most recently wanted to be National Party Chairman. The political party animal gives this explanation for supporting his views over more traditional and fully clothed candidates.
We nominated Gary Johnson and Bill Weld. You have to actually sign a pledge of non-aggression to join the party. The pledge reads, I oppose the initiation of force to achieve political or social goals.
Sadly, James got only 2 votes for party chair, but he was also never arrested. Turns out his thong song may not be his swan song.
So, you know, I like how he came off as a person that wanted to make a statement on the scene, and when he had everybody's attention and he just took his clothes off. He even properly grew himself, but when he went on the interview, he was well spoken and he made some great points. I think he could have been just as effective if he would have been able to articulate himself like that. I mean, he's already forgotten anyway. It's not like he made a memorable statement. I'm pretty sure anyone that decides to watch this that's not a libertarian, you're probably like, yeah, I never heard of that dude. Exactly my point. So, yeah, it was all for nothing. And if he does get remembered, it's going to be for taking off your clothes and not really representing your ideology in the best way, dude. Unfortunately, people that vote are the people that you need to convince, not people that are in your demographic that can't win elections. You're preaching to the choir. You need to be a little bit more strategic. Hence, Gary Johnson was a lot better because he actually won, you know, a role in leadership. He was the governor of New Mexico. So I really looked for debates with him in there. But before I get to that clip, let's watch this next clip of how libertarians are marketing themselves. We're not going to watch this whole clip, but it's just amazing to see. It's like, are you serious? I mean, I just really don't see this as the most strategic way to get the attention of people that vote. Oh, this is, okay, I'm sorry. This is the Gary Johnson debate, so we'll go ahead and look at the way they advertise here in a little bit.
Have a government-issued license to drive a car.
Hell no!
What's next? Requiring a license to make toast in your own damn toaster?
The license to drive? You know, I'd like to see some competency exhibited by people before they drive.
I mean, what probably hurt poor Gary Johnson is he sounds like Kermit the Frog. I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, that's a reasonable regulation if you ask me, man. I mean, some of the libertarian takes is just like really crazy. I have some buddies that are libertarians, and I'm like, when I bring stuff up like this, I could tell they don't watch the libertarian debates. They don't watch people in their party represent their ideology. So here's another example of how libertarians advertise. I'm just like, what are you thinking, man? Come on, you do better. All right, let's make this bigger. All right, it's just giving me a hard time because it's going through OBS.
Hello. Do you have a warrant to be here?
Maybe there's a little bit of A little grass growing right along here. Some happy little things.
I love you, you love me. We all own our own bodies, so marry who you want and do whatever drugs you choose. And when it's time, you can die with dignity by determining your own end-of-life plan.
Hi, Maria!
Hi, Officer Winkles!
How you doing today?
I don't have to answer that question.
That is correct!
I'm recording you!
Am I being detained?
Nope!
Which I can legally do because I'm in a public place!
Come back if you have a warrant!
Alrighty!
Know your rights!
Yay!
Okay, Gumshoes.
That's, in my opinion, there's a lot of things that I agree with, but that is not an effective way to market your brand, man. It's a good way to market yourself to get a loyal following, but to recruit people that are Democrats and Republicans and independents, it's just like a parody, man. You're literally looking for, like, I guess, college kids, but a lot of people want to put college kids in a stereotype that they're just not intelligent enough to advocate for policy and parties that are aligned with their interests. So, yeah, that's just really interesting, that the fact that I saw, I'm just poor Gary Johnson, man. So, my takeaway from these videos, we all know that the system is rigged. Pointing out the obvious isn't necessarily a solid strategy. I see takes like this from full-blown socialists and communists. Part of being a successful American politician is that you have to market yourself to people that actually vote. Once you have that demographic, lure in the unlikely voters. Winning smaller level of leadership, government leadership, is effective as well. Like I mentioned, Gary Johnson was governor of New Mexico. Good. That's a good way to get momentum. And so after we saw those videos, let's go ahead and discuss, the takeaways I had with my interview, number 7 with Ben Arcus. I'm sorry. If I recall correctly, Ben Arcus is a self-proclaimed anarcho-libertarian. I didn't even know what that was at first. I'm still nowhere near being an expert with the types of libertarianisms that are, recognized in the United States. But after our convo, I have some questions. Where has a libertarian society thrived? As a nation or just a plain society? And Ben Arcus mentioned that the Zapatistas, and he was perfectly transparent that, he wasn't super informed with an answer for that particular question, which I respect. But, I learned a little bit from him, and hearing the Zapatistas, who are well known for being a self-governing society, I did some research to see how things are going, and it doesn't look so good for them. When you are playing a game where everyone cheats and everyone's corrupt, I really don't see how a libertarian approach is going to work. We need government, but we need smart government, and it's our job to make sure the government works for our best interests. So let me just go ahead and show you the most current information I found on the Zapatistas, because, I've heard of them. My name is Emiliano. I'm named after Emiliano Zapata, so I was like, okay, cool. Let's see how they're doing, because you always see t-shirts, Rage Against the Machine, Zach De La Rocha, he's all about the Zapatistas. I don't even know if he's doing any more with them, but I'm pretty familiar with who they are, but I don't know if they're successful. Boom. Yeah, that's a little bit better, right? And let's go ahead and put some of that groove back on. All right. So Chiapas and the Zapatistas face dramatic increase in violence. And I had to look around for some current news with the Zapatistas, because they like to get marketed as being very, a community of self-organization, which they were very popular in, organizing who they are. And this was from 2020, so this was the most recent good news I saw, but 2022 is more up to date. And this kind of aligns with my criticism, my critique with libertarians, is because when we don't all start a level playing field. And I don't know what regulations the Libertarian Party would utilize, and they're all different. Like, some guys don't want a driver's license. Some guys are just making arguments about toasters and driver's license. And some people will take off their clothes. I mean, it's really all over the place, that party. The only thing that sounds very appealing is the name. Libertarian. That does sound like a good recruiting cry, battle cry. But anyways, let's go ahead and look at the Zapatistas. I don't want to read the whole article. I'm just going to go to the key parts that caught my attention, because they didn't want any government to be involved. They could do their own policing, etc. But importantly, no level of government intervenes in these attacks. No level of government has intervened to stop the attacks. So there's a lot of shootings from people that are riding scooters with a lot of paramilitary groups, narco paramilitary groups. So I guess the guerrilla tactics that were implemented by the Zapatistas are now being implemented against them by the cartels, because there's a lot of special interests, because it's in the border of Guatemala. So there's a lot of trafficking, and there's a lot of other interest groups out there that want to get rid of the Zapatistas, that are just ruining their bottom line. And the Mexican government is like, okay, we're not going to help you. You didn't want our help, so we don't want to help you. So whatever. I mean, you've always been a headache to us, so this will solve itself. And unfortunately, that seems to be the case with the violence and people passing due to just, the government just covering their eyes to the I can't even speak, but the willingness to just say we don't want the government involvement. They're like, okay, no help. That's cool with us. So that's the situation, I think, from what I see, the Zapatistas find themselves in. They don't have any help. And when you don't have your help, when you have cartels after you, yeah, that's not good. That's a bad situation. So I kind of think that is like what we see, but not to that extent with the United States. We have a lot of elitists that put their interests, they prioritize their interests over ours. But at least our government does a little bit to keep it fair, more than Mexico does with the Zapatistas. So I want to make sure the government implements strategies to give more opportunities to regular people. And the talking points that we need to fight against is like, oh, they're hand-me-downs. People are just going to be lazy. I really don't see that, being a great way to prove how patriotic you are, dogging other Americans. I mean, we have states where there's UBI, and Alaska's not known to have a lot of lazy people over there. There's a lot of particular issues that deserve debate and deserve criticism, but I feel like anytime that you've invested in the American people, you're going to get a return on your investment, because that's one thing Trump utilized. He referenced the past where there was more security and more opportunities financially for Americans. And sure, there was more fiscal conservatism with Americans there, because the interest rates were higher to get loans and to use your credit. So that's something that could be pushed as a fiscal conservative. But the thing is, we have to make sure we have regulations to make sure Americans are getting what they need for their labor. And that's something that we see that has been going away for decades. Getting paid your worth, getting the benefits, getting bonuses, I mean, I remember when being a kid hearing about Christmas bonuses, holiday bonuses. I can't really think of any bonuses other than just for your performance being implemented. And there's so many things to discuss where opportunities are not as abundant as they were in the past. But at the same time, there's opportunities opening up in other fields that never existed before. So that's a good thing. And that's why I create this podcast, to have these conversations, and just continue to have solution-based conversations. So I made the video to ask some questions for the Libertarians and just give you a heads up of my reflections and the goals I'm going to set for the future. So yeah, I think things are going pretty good for the effort I've been putting in the podcast. And that's it for today. So have a good one.